Recording in progress. Okay, we are good to go.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for your attendance. At this time, we're going to call the meeting to order for our Finance Committee meeting, June 2nd, 2021 at 9 a.m. And Mr. Director Shore, would you like to start our first item?
I sure will, and thank you and good morning, everyone. For the record, Scott Schroyer, Executive Director with Seguazen, and joining me this morning, Richard Ballmer, Finance Director, and of course we have Ivanka Mirza, our Board Secretary, in attendance as well. So turning to item number 2, our late fee policy review and discussion. That is really the focus of today's meeting. We have 2 hours set up on our Zoom call this morning for the meeting. Of course, we may not need that, but of course, board members will let us know if you want to go beyond that time, which we can. So the focus of our meeting this morning is due to the recent U.S. Post Office mail handling errors, several utility customers' utility bills were delayed, causing late fees. And the board quickly addressed this issue when it was brought to their attention recently. And the board gave the executive director permission basically to resolve some of these late fee errors caused by the U.S. Post Office immediately, but we know that history-wise that we've had some issues with this in the last couple of years. So we thought it was best to, or the board thought it was best to send this to the Finance Committee for discussion, and that's why we are here today. So I think we have an opportunity to talk about the issue and the reoccurrence of the issue, and to address possibly some language that would either allow the executive director to deal with these type of issues, or possibly the Finance Committee may recommend that this is a one-off type of situation and there's no need to deal with this on a full-time basis, but as it would occur. So just a little bit on the U.S. Post Office mail handling errors. Richard Ballmer, our Finance Director, has informed me that this has occurred in the last 3 or 4 years. Is that correct, Richard? Have had occurrences of this same situation? Oh, okay. And I see Richard saying yes. And we have dealt with that issue in the past. And of course, we had this issue occur recently. So in terms of the recent mail handling error, at the time I brought this to the board, we really didn't know the extent of this issue, but to my knowledge, we had about 30 utility accounts total, and we had about $500 in late fees that we waived. And Richard, you can add some additional background information to that if you have more recent numbers on that, but just wanted to give the board members this morning an idea of the extent of this recent situation. So again, about 30 accounts, utility accounts, that were delayed, and approximately $500 in late fees that were waived. So Richard, would you like to add anything further to that as far as maybe some more recent numbers that you have on that?
The total wound up being 53 accounts we adjusted for $500. But of those, one of the institutional customers had several accounts, so it probably wound up, I think it was about 40 customers, 53 accounts.
Okay. And what was the total? Did you put a total value on that as well?
Yes, it's $500.66.
Okay, so the $500 is accurate. Okay, so I think this would be a great opportunity just for discussion by the Finance Committee in terms of possibly just weighing in on your thoughts and possibly some direction here, and to let staff know what we can do to support your discussion or decisions and any information. Thank you, Chair.
Any discussion or questions regarding the postal handling errors?
So you guys required the envelope with the yellow sticker on it as proof that it was a postal service error? Is that the documentation required?
In this instance, yes.
Okay.
So in this instance, I think, can we put a caveat to our late policy fee that if they can prove it, but they have got, I like the way it went out on the website saying that if you had supporting documentation, we would consider it. And I think that was the only way it could be done. Because anybody could go back in their house and write a check and backdate it and say, I wrote this and mailed it and I don't have the envelope anymore. Like Bill Birdsong said, he threw the envelope away. Well, you're out of luck. We need to have proof.
Agreed.
And the 50 number was considerably higher than I thought it would be. Or the 40 number. Yeah, I was
Well, I'll
thinking it was
tell you-
probably more like 20 or 30 or 15 or 20.
Well, funny that it happened when it happened, because I mailed out a bunch of Mother's Day cards all over the United States. And one of them came back to me that was going to upstate New York, and it said address not found or no such address. And I'm going, what did they do? Have a run on this machine? Shove a bunch of stuff in machine and say, we'll just send all this back. It appeared to me that my error happened at the Raleigh station. So determining which place happened, that's not going to help us. We're not going to get the post office to do anything right. I wish we could go back to the post office and try to recoup some of our loss, but that's not going to happen. But I think for late payment fees, if they can prove through no fault of their own that the payment didn't make it, and with documentation to prove it, I think we could waive the late fees. Richard, do you think, is there any other scenario that you can think of that we should attach to this idea? Or is there any other situation that you know of that we need to be aware of that we could cause a problem if we do this?
I think the only thing we would need strict guidance from the Finance Committee on would be to very narrowly define the criteria under which you want these fees waived, because we have seen situations in the past where the person mailed it, it got returned, but if you look at the postmark date, it wouldn't have gotten here on time anyway, that sort of thing. So you always get into that, well, I mailed it. Well, yeah, you mailed it this morning, then it's late today at 5 o'clock.
Right.
So I would just advise or say that I would think we would want to very narrowly define it, so that my team and I know exactly how the Finance Committee wants us to determine who does and who doesn't. And I don't know if you want to do it on an ongoing individual basis, because otherwise you'll run into the same thing with non-payment fees possibly.
Right.
And then you've got a much more troublesome situation because water may have been disconnected. So we just need to be very careful about the way we craft any change or any guidance to make sure we are taking all the things into consideration that may happen. We could
Right.
just do it for mass mailing events like this, where it's a mass mailing event rather than a 1 or 2 customer situation. So that's all just some thoughts for the Finance Committee, just based on day-to-day activity that I see.
Yeah, so this is Linda. I was just going to suggest that maybe we only focus on the mass mailing eras, because if we get into the onesie twosies, that could be from an administrative, it would be an administrative nightmare trying to focus on making sure that someone had an envelope, or we have to say that it's, if you mailed it 7 days in advance and it's postmarked 7 days from the due date, that just gets into too many logistics. So if we only focus on mass mailing eras, then I think we will have some consistency as we look at this. Sorry about that.
So in situations where somebody has an envelope saying that they mailed the payment 7 days prior, it would be up to the discretion of the finance director or the executive director as to whether they could waive the late fees. But then you get into
I'd say it's just late.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's just late.
I think what we're saying here is, and what I'm hearing from the Finance Committee at this point is, focus on mass mailing or delivery errors. So, for example, someone may come to our counter and say, this got mangled at the post office, this one letter. Okay, well, that's not a mass mailing issue. That is something that happened to an individual, and we're sorry for that. However, history says that there can always be issues with some type of delivery, a onesie twosie type of thing, versus a mass mailing. So I think that, again, if from what I'm hearing from the committee this morning is focusing on mass mailing or delivery issues, which I think is good. That really helps us as far as managing this. So it's more explicit what we're focusing on, because again, we really don't want it that broad that, the finance director and myself are always put in a position to weigh out, well, how does this apply against another issue, those type of things. And we end up waiving too many fees, quite honestly, for that. One issue that in this discussion, one of the things that came up as well is that I think that we need to include delivery errors. And Richard, give me some perspective on this, if you would, please. When we've had storms come through, such as a hurricane, and there may be delivery problems with the mail just due to a state of emergency, has SCGWASA ever dealt with that in your tenure in terms of delays, or saying, due to the state of emergency, we are going to waive late fees? Have we made any of those declarations parallel to a state emergency?
We've never had that become an issue to where it's been discussed. The only thing that I recall is that we did delay disconnections one year due to a hurricane state of emergency. And then we resumed those. I think we delayed it by 1 day. And once the hurricane had passed and didn't hit us, then we resumed the next day. But that's the only thing I recall. There was no waiving of fees for any natural disaster or state of emergency that I ever recall.
Okay.
Yep.
And I guess that could be dealt with during that state of emergency, working with the board to talk about the extent of what's going on and the timing of those issues, and maybe a recommendation to the board that due to these circumstances, this is what we are suggesting based on, our existing problems. So, okay, I wanted that perspective as well. I don't want to put too much into this. I mean, again, our focus has been the U.S. Postal Service. So Richard threw out some ideas for us for discussion here so that we can frame something for the board. And some of his comments were, or I'll pass it, maybe a solution would be, in the event that the U.S. Postal Service returns a large number of payments to customers as undeliverable due to a U.S. Postal Service sorting or delivery error, the executive director may waive and or reverse late fees. So sets it up quite nicely, just basically in that frame. And of course, I can present this again to the Finance Committee here. The criteria for this discretion will be the U.S. Postal Service error must have affected numerous payments on the same day or time period. So once again, kind of framing a large issue. The customer must provide proof of the return payment envelope with USPS return information, similar to what we've just gone through recently. And the U.S. Post Office must confirm that the return was likely the cause of a U.S. Postal Service error. So once again, we're just kind of walking through that situation. So those are some ideas that Richard presented to us just to kind of discuss how we could frame this or put this into context here regarding this issue without going too far outside the boundaries of the topic here, trying to cover everything and having too much latitude. So based on what I said there, and maybe it would be helpful, would you like me to put this on screen so that you can take a look at this as well? Would that be helpful?
That would be helpful, yes.
Okay, let me do that then, please. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So this is our procedure that we have for this is our administrative procedure for customer late fees, and you can see our edits down below here in red. So this is what I was just referring to. So I'll let the board members have an opportunity to read this as well. Is it large enough on screen?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Scott, you know me too well.
that's why I asked, just to make sure you could see it.
And do we know what other facilities are utilizing or doing for errors regarding the Postal Service, if they've been impacted?
I haven't reached out to anyone on this particular instance. When we had it back in 2018, I reached out to a few colleagues in the surrounding towns that had water services, and they didn't seem to experience the mass problem that we were having. And the
Okay.
few that they did have, they didn't, they took the old Saguasa stance that there are other payment avenues and we don't take responsibility for mailing delays.
Right, okay, thank you.
And I think in other one-offs, like you guys just showed us for, where the machine ate the payment and this, that, and everything else, we do offer online payments. So we can't give you a late fee this time, but if you want to, you can use, you can make your payment online. So I agree that we should just cover the mass issue. We're not going to determine what covers mass. Is it more than 10, less than 30? I mean, who determines whether it's, what is mass?
Mhm.
And did anybody that had this experience get disconnected and we had to refund disconnection or reconnection fees?
In this instance,
Uh-huh.
no, not in this instance.
Oh,
This
thank
instance only affected the timing of it, just so happened to be that it was far enough in advance of any disconnections that it wouldn't have affected disconnect customers.
Very good. That's
Right.
good. I'm glad we didn't have to deal with that. I like the way this is worded. I think it's good. What do you think, Linda?
Yeah, I think it's good. I just want to make sure that we are not setting ourselves up by, I know we're addressing issue from a mass perspective, but as I start thinking about it, I mean, we all mail payments to various different companies for bills, and nobody's ever given me a refund back because the post office ate it or lost it because there are other options. So I'm just thinking ahead, from a futuristic perspective, are we opening up a can of worms by trying to appease the individuals who were impacted, keeping in mind that we have other opportunities where people can drive here, put it in the box out front. Is this a one-time event? Do we expect it to occur again? Or should we really just focus on areas that relate to natural disaster? I'm just thinking out loud.
And Ms. Jordan, you may recall being on the finance committee in the past, but that has been a concern of previous finance committees.
Yes.
That there's a lot of exceptions, and when you open that door, you'll find more exceptions and more exceptions. I can say in this case, of the accounts that got credited off, by the large majority, overwhelmingly, were non-residential customers. You had the school systems and you had a lot of commercial businesses, which a lot of the commercial businesses use outside pay services to send their checks.
Mhm.
So just to give you some context on the number of the 53 accounts, I'd say maybe 5%, 10% were individuals looking at the list.
Okay.
Well, and Ms. Jordan, you raise a good point as well. I just happen to think that I know we're focusing on one delivery method at this point. And I just happen to think that in seeing my notes that what if you have some type of banking computer error where all of a sudden things didn't post, at the proper time and date, due to whatever those reasons are. And now we're facing 50 or 100 customers that now find themselves in that same situation, and we haven't addressed that issue. And I raise this just based on all of the security issues that we know are occurring with computer systems. To your point, is it best to try to capture all those nuances within a policy or procedure, or is it simply maybe a better approach to identify when those situations happen, survey them, and bring them to the board's attention potentially to say, here's what we're up against, here's our thoughts, what does the board think about this situation? So what's the finance committee's thoughts on that position?
If it's a banking error, then, and I haven't foreseen it being experienced where, when you say banking error, I guess be a little bit more specific. Are you saying the bank didn't post the payment for the transfer or with technology, there was an
Yes.
issue? That-
All the above, unfortunately,
above.
or something was hacked and the system was down and items couldn't be posted by the due date and time, and now they're posted the following day, and now this has caused, 100 accounts, even though they went online with good intentions, to all of a sudden now incur, late fees.
I unfortunately, and it may sound a little harsh, but that's just the world that we live in.
Well,
And
if the bank makes a mistake getting your payment out, you can fight with the bank.
right, yeah, they can fight with the bank. So
Yeah, 'cause that's what I do.
yeah, and the more that we talk about it, the more things that potentially may come about, and that just puts us in a situation where then we're going to be the monitor of everyone's making their payment. When in actuality, we provide a service. It is up to me as the customer to either drive over there and drop it in the box, walk in when you're open, or put it in the mail way before it's due. If I wait to the last minute, then I take the responsibility of it potentially being late. So let's not get in the business of trying to monitor when people make their payments, because they have more than one option.
Yeah, we
That's
got
that's just my, the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, we can't get ourselves in the business of monitoring people making their payments.
Yeah.
We just can't. And it is unfortunate that the post office made a mistake. We can make this one-time exception because we know about it. But moving forward, let's not get in the business of doing that, because our business is to make sure we provide good quality service, water and sewer capabilities to our citizens. It's their responsibility to make the payment.
And
That's my 2 cents.
Executive Director Schroyer and Chairman Gooch, you need to address our chair from now on as Dr. Jordan.
Oh,
Jordan. She is
Yes.
Dr. Jordan, and I'm so proud to tell everybody. It's what an accomplishment.
Well, thank
Amen.
you.
that is
Absolutely.
that is awesome.
Thank you.
I think
So
that
the doctor says,
well, and Dr. Jordan and I were to have a meeting earlier last week, and I never heard from her. And she came up with the excuse that she was having her dissertation for her doctorate. And I said, that's the best excuse I've heard. So congratulations to you. So
Yes, congratulations.
Oh, thank
Okay.
you.
And I know Scott is looking for some definition here, but also like Richard said, we can open the door here for endless policy changing.
Right.
so
And
are we
it-
not going to do this? I don't know. Are we going to do this or we're not going to do this? I understand. Linda, you're muted. Dr. Linda, you're muted.
My preference is that we have made the exception for this one-time event, but let's not make it a habit or put a policy in place, because then that creates the perception that if someone is late, someone can easily say that. But SAGWASA is always under the gun to making sure that we are providing excellent water quality. So let's focus on that and not the exceptions. Even though the people did suffer, we have recovered from that. But moving forward, let's not focus on that, because other companies are not focused on if someone didn't get their bill paid on time, they're just late. And I have water bills from different municipalities for rental properties, and there are no exceptions. You're just late. Because you can call it, there's so many different opportunities, like I said. So that's just my preference. I don't want us to focus all our energy on making sure that controlling how people make their payments, when they make their payments. If there's a natural disaster, we can handle it on a one-time basis, or have a policy that focuses on natural disasters. But who's to say that this won't come up again?
It will come up again.
And then we've got to have a laundry list of exceptions to refund individuals for a late payment, whether it's electronics or it's the post office or whatever. I'm just thinking long-term, it just could be an administrative nightmare.
And, you know, the initial reaction due to all the bad publicity we've had over the years and all of feedback, negative feedback we get from time to time, the initial reaction is you want to do something, you want to be compassionate, you want to make the customer feel that we're listening, and we are, even though often we can't do anything about it. But there again, opening this door could cause more problems than it solves.
And just for perspective, this is the amount of work that went into the, this is the 5 or 6 hours of administrative work that went into the late fee reversal.
Yeah, and you've got more important things to focus on.
Well, I think that I'd like to comment that I like the way the board addressed this issue. You know, it was a topic of concern. We brought it to the board. We had a discussion. The board gave us direction and we managed it. And we basically closed the door on this topic. And I can see that same process occurring in the future when it does for any type of exceptions. You know, evaluate where we are, what's going on, what the effect of this is. There's a lot of things that we need to consider in addition to, you know, customer service and we can continue to move in that direction. If the finance committee recommends that, I guess I'd be looking for, if we can, a recommendation coming out of the finance committee today. And maybe we already have that. Linda, Dr. Jordan, you already pretty much talked about that this is, we made the exemption for a one-time event.
Well,
Yeah.
Commissioner Georgiana, what are your feelings about it? That's just my personal.
You know, when you said what you said a few minutes ago, it made complete sense. And we will, you're right. If we put an exception in the policy, we could be opening doors about, well, what if, and what do we do when this, and what do we do when that? And we could what if ourselves to death. But if you handle it on a one-off, like this happened, what, 4 times in 7 years? So the next time it happens, we'll address it as a one-time situation and make a decision, let the finance committee make a decision at that time, or the board at that time. Hopefully it'll be after I'm gone and somebody else can do it. But you never know. But yeah, maybe we don't need to do this. Then we'll just handle it as a one-off going forward, so we don't second guess ourselves. And if other companies aren't doing it, then I guess, you know, we'll follow suit and watch them all start tomorrow. Jimmy, are you at the beach?
Yes.
I thought so, with the fish in the background.
Yes. Yes, that's some decorations in the dining area.
Yeah, I was thinking he was at the beach myself.
Very, very good.
While we all slave away over here.
Don't worry, I got another.
So Richard, you
Meeting at
drafted
11.
all that for nothing. I'm sorry, buddy.
No, I just stole a draft from 5 years ago and tweaked it a little bit for this time, because we did review this 5, 6 years ago, and I think the finance committee at that time came to the same conclusion that when we started discussing it, all the, well, what if this and what about that, and what is the limit of mass, and it became so hard to define. I think previous finance committees felt the same way, is that you're opening a door that we can't close again. And opening it for late fees is one thing, but if you open the mail-in problem for late fees, then you open it for disconnection fees. And trust me, that group of customers would be a lot more difficult to handle.
Yeah, and $75 times 53 accounts would have added up to quite a bit of money.
Yeah, and it's not so much financial, but the customer would be that, you know, you fight a lot harder to get $75 waived than you do $5 waived, I guess is my point.
Right. Yeah. Well, thanks for doing that research, Richard.
You're quite welcome.
It looked wonderful.
Well, thank you. That's what drafts are for, so they can be shot down and
That's
go
right.
back to the original.
A straw man. Put that away, Richard. Pull that out again when we need it.
That's
in the
right.
Yep,
future.
exactly.
Start a
Okay.
file.
Well, I'm very clear on the direction from the Finance Committee on this topic, so we will not do anything further to adjust, amend any type of policies specific to the U.S. Post Office or any other issues. And if there's more that I need to add to that, then please let me know.
That,
Are
do
we
we
moving
need,
to another subject yet?
Not yet. What was that, Mr.
Yeah.
Gooch?
oh, do we need to get a report from the Finance Committee to the full board, or since we're not making any changes, just,
I was going to recommend that we put an item on our agenda for Tuesday evening that would give, we can have an item for Finance Committee update, and Chairperson Jordan could speak to that to talk about what we discussed and what the conclusion was. It could probably be just a 2 or 3 minute presentation at the most. I thought we could handle it in that way unless you would like to do it differently.
that sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yep,
Is that
that's
good,
fine.
good with you, Linda?
That's fine.
Dr. Jordan?
That's fine with me.
All right.
All right.
Doctor now too?
Huh?
Does your husband call you doctor now too? When he called you about the tire, say, I'm not that kind of doctor.
Every once in a while, he'll throw it in there.
Okay, very good. So let's see. Let me move back to the agenda then. And we've completed item 2. So item 3, I always like to put other finance topics since we're meeting. So we can move to that item next. If there are any other finance topics.
I would like to talk about at one of our previous meetings, we did an allocation transfer on Church Street for Creedmoor because the property changed hands before anybody built there. And I was wondering, do we have a fee to do that? To transfer allocation if somebody gets an allocation for property and then they decide to go somewhere else and they sell it? I didn't see it in our fee schedule. Do we have a fee for that?
No.
No.
We very rarely have I ever seen this happen. And typically what happens is the original allocation is rescinded and the new buyer, or however that transition occurs,
Would have to pay.
has to reapply and as if it didn't exist in the first place. In other words, it's like when the airline tells you that the credits are non-transferable.
Yeah.
Allocations in the past, if it hadn't been completed, were non-transferable. But in answer to your question, there's no specific fee for a transfer fee or an allocation re-review or reissuance fee or anything of that nature.
But there's a bit of administrative work that goes into a situation like that, is there not?
I would leave that to Scott to answer. Now that Mark's on board, he handles the allocations.
Well, there's always going to be some processing, that's for sure. Because what we had to do, and I know in this specific case, we did have some time involved with it. I don't recall the number of hours. Mark may have that documented in this case. But there is a handling fee for that. And we've tried to, as you know, this year, well, not tried, but we were successful in reviewing all of our costs of service, and especially looking at what was involved for identifying utilities in the field, allocation fees, reviews, engineering, those type of things. So we did have some time in that. I would suggest, just based on today's comment, that we pull back and take a look at that and review that one case, and also think about any other future cases to see if there is an amount of time that we should be capturing and charging for that. I can't imagine it would be a small fee or a large fee, but we may want to identify it that there's either a minimum fee for that or an hourly rate for that type of review, knowing that something is going to go on for that. So if that pleases the Finance Committee, we'll take that approach.
That works for me.
Yes, that does.
I
Okay.
didn't know how much work was involved in doing all that. And I knew I've looked through the fees and I didn't see a charge, but
Mhm.
to cover our administrative costs. A lot of things that that Sigwasa hasn't covered in the past. And now that we're identifying these things, I think that we should, time is money and Richard doesn't come cheap. Neither does Mark or Scott.
Richard's cheaper than them now.
Well, Richard may be cheaper than them. That's the next finance meeting, Richard. But maybe
Yes,
we think about having a fee associated. I don't know if you do. You guys look in, decide if you want to do percentage or a flat fee or something like that. But an allocation is not something that's nothing. To give them the allocation, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And then to transfer it to someone else, I don't know how much, I guess it depends on time and all that other stuff has gone by, but I would like it if you guys would look into it. And if we should be charging a fee, let's take a very hard look and consideration for that.
we sure will. We'll put those notes down, and once we get started here in our new fiscal year with that catalog of updated fees, that would be, we can do amendments to that, bring that to the board in the future should we want to do that as well. So, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Now, in this particular case, it was a single family home, is that correct?
It was.
And was it a fairly new allocation? As
Yes.
in there hadn't been any kind of extensions filed on it, or?
Yeah,
it
exactly.
wasn't-
Yeah, let me just frame that for the board here. So it was a undeveloped lot, so residential, single family, and it was for water and sewer. And the allocation was granted in a normal time frame, 1 year, for example, to complete this. And during that time frame, the applicant, the owner, decided to sell the property. No improvements had been made up to that point, so nothing was installed. So it truly was just kind of like a paper process in terms of a transfer, which was still required by the board for approval. So we made that through the board approved that, and now working with the new owner, they will go through the steps to actually have the utilities installed for the property and pay for the rest of the features, the tap fee, the inspection fee, the meter set, those type of things for actual service.
Okay.
And how often does this type of thing come up? Do you know, Richard?
I don't recall it being, this is the first one I recall for an individual
Okay.
lot like this. We've seen developers that, the economy crashed or something like that and they asked for an extension or sold the land, but this is the only one I've ever seen for a single, that I recall seeing for a single. If so, it's been a very long time ago.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Is it, do developers do it often?
The only time we saw a huge problem with developments, of course, was 2008, and that was understandable because they were in the middle of when the economy crashed and everything. We did see some defaults on allocations and some extensions on allocations, and those all came to the board, of course.
Mhm.
Right, and just to make the board aware, which I think I've mentioned as well previously, is that we are reviewing our allocation policy as well, kind of combing through that. There's some changes that we're going to be recommending, and that'll come to the full board, I would imagine, at this point for review and discussion. I don't have a time horizon on that yet, but I know that there's also been some changes earlier this calendar year affecting committals by the utility to developers, homeowners for allocations and SDFs, if you will. So we want to make sure that our allocation policy is in line with state statutes and the timing therefore. And I think that some of the issues that we'll be looking at that are on my radar regarding that are our current policy. We have preliminary and final allocations, and there's certain steps that occur in timelines and fees that are due within that time frame. So that's something we're going to be focusing on as well. I have Mark Hamlet, our utility engineer, has been working on that for the past several months. We're also working in concert with our attorney to have that reviewed. So that may be something that comes to the board maybe later this fall for review and recommendation. We just want to make sure that we have that up to date, along with the other policies. That's been, I know, a point by several board members to make sure that we're going through our policies on a frequency to make sure that they are up to date. And if they're not, get them up to date.
Mhm.
So, all right. Any other finance topics?
I don't have any.
I don't have any.
Okay, very good. I have nothing further to bring to the Finance Committee. Richard, do you have any topics?
Not really, just a note that, you know, as we prepare to implement, me and the team prepare to implement the new fees and rates, we will be sending out a possible robocall to all customers later in June to alert them to the fee changes July 1st, just to point them to the website and say there's fee changes. We're trying to do that specifically to head off any massive complaint about the disconnection fee increase not being noted. We would hate to go into the disconnections in July, have a $25 increase in fees and have the backlash from customers saying they weren't notified. And then of course, we'll have an insert in the July bills alerting them that the rates would be in their August billing.
Mhm.
And that's really it, other than the one note on the revenues. I'm in the process of doing the year-end review and projections, and our revenue projections are coming in ahead of budget, which is a great thing. In the quarterly financial updates, I've alerted the board to that in the past few updates, but that does appear to have fully extended through the year. So in the board meeting, you'll see a budget amendment to increase the revenues. Again, I think that may be a temporary increase. I certainly wouldn't consider it a trend at this point. And in looking at some of the larger institutions, since the mask mandate has dropped and since March of this year, the projections are going back down to where we originally projected them before the pandemic began. So we should get a good handle, I think, in the next 6 months on where things are going to settle.
And I would like to just add comment to that as well, just to remind the Finance Committee and also maybe the public that is monitoring this as well, is that during our current fiscal year, there was quite a large borrow against fund balance for our operating expense, $1.2 million, for example, a little bit higher than that, I believe. So the perspective is, even though our revenues may be a little bit higher than what we projected, what that means is that we don't end up borrowing as much from the fund balance. We start to make our way back, if you
Right.
will. So that's, I don't want to give the impression that the revenues are really high and everything is great. We borrowed from that fund balance and we're just putting money back in the bank so that hit isn't so great. So I'm sure you all understand that, but I wanted our customers that may be monitoring this to be aware of that as well. Okay. Very good. Well, nothing further from me. I think it was a great meeting this morning. I appreciate all of your time. And it's up to the chair to call the meeting to adjournment whenever you're ready.
I am ready. We don't need to have a vote. But no, meeting adjourned. If there are no additional questions or comments, the meeting
Just
is adjourned.
Travel
sorry?
safe, Scott. I'm sorry for your loss, and I hope wherever you're going, it's not as painful as it could be.
Wow, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'll be out of the office Thursday and Friday. I put out information to the board about that. I'll be back Saturday evening, and I'll be flying because I can't depend on gas for driving. So
Right.
based on recent
Okay.
circumstances. So again, thank you. Appreciate your time this morning, and we'll be signing off. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Safe travel, Scott.
Yes, safe travel, Scott. Our
Thank you.
condolences.